Hi there. Thanks for joining me on Rethink Real Estate for Good. I'm Eve Picker, and I'm on a mission to make real estate work for everyone. I love real estate. Real estate makes places good or bad, rich or poor, beautiful or not. In this show, I'm interviewing the disruptors, those creative thinkers and doers that are shrugging off the status quo in order to build better for everyone. And speaking of building better, I'm very excited to share that my company, Small Change, is now raising capital through a community round that is open to the public. Small Change is a leading equity crowdfunding platform for impact investment in real estate. For as little as $250, anyone 18 and over can invest in Small Change, helping to fuel our growth as we disrupt the old boys club of capital that routinely ignores so many qualified people and projects. Please visit wefunder.com/smallchange to review the full details of our raise and to make an investment if you can. And remember, investing is risky. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Lyneir Richardson is building black wealth through community-owned shopping centres. He's planning to buy 16 community shopping centres and invite 1,000 small investors to co-own them with his company, Chicago Trend. To accomplish this, Lyneir and his team have developed a rigorous set of criteria for finding and buying shopping centers in majority Black demographics that are on the cusp of change and that offer added value over time. His plan is to empower Black entrepreneurs and community residents to have a meaningful ownership stake in the revitalization and continued vibrancy of commercial corridors and Black shopping districts. Lyneir wants every neighbor to be able to say, "We own this." If you'd like to join me in my quest to rethink real estate, there are two simple things you can do. Share this podcast and go to rethinkrealestateforgood.co, where you can subscribe to be the first to hear about my podcasts, blog posts, and other goodies. Hi, Lyneir. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Eve, it's a pleasure to be with you.
So I'm looking forward to this conversation, but let's start by talking about Chicago Trend. What does Chicago Trend do?
Chicago Trend was formed in 2016 to strengthen commercial corridors and retail in neighborhoods that are on the cusp of change. Most of our work has been in majority Black neighborhoods. As you know, the first impression of a neighborhood is the commercial corridor. So if you drive into a neighborhood and you see a shopping center that's underdeveloped or a boarded up storefront or a liquor store and check cashing, even if the homes are in good shape, your first impression of that neighborhood is that something could be better here. And we see disinvestment all around. And our goal is to come up with strategies to arrange capital to make the case for retailers to strengthen commercial neighborhoods, which ultimately will strengthen the commercial corridor, which ultimately will strengthen the neighborhood.
So to turn the first impression into an opportunity instead of let's not go here, right?
Instead of the retail being a liability, it should be an asset for the community.
Yes. How does Trend work? How many people work for you? And
we're still a small team. We have 6 people total. We have a whole lot of advisors and consultants and part-time experts, subject matter experts, best legal team, architects and contractors. What's been fun is we own 4 shopping centers now, Eve, And there's one part of the work that's about the shopping center specifically, but there's another part of the work that we've been able to engage Black property managers, Black leasing agents, people of color as architects and engineers. Even the landscaper on one of our shopping centers is Black. And the way I talk about that is that being intentionally inclusive doesn't mean exclusive. We have other people as well, right, that work on our properties that are not Black. But the thought of being able and being in a position to give opportunities to retailers and entrepreneurs who connect with these communities, who have not only a professional expertise, but also, a deep sort of history. Their family still, they grew up there. Ideally, it means that, we'll get better services and more intense quality of work.
That's pretty powerful. So now you have a plan to build Black wealth through increased ownership opportunities of real estate assets. So tell me about the plan and your strategy and how it emerged.
Yes. So when we acquired our first shopping center in Chicago, it was initially the strategy of if we owned it and we could control it and we can hire experts. And then right after George Floyd was murdered, I remember seeing a guy holding a sign up. There was civil unrest in the neighborhoods we were working in. And the sign said, "Please don't destroy my business, it's Black owned." And what I remember thinking is, wow, who owns the shopping center? And that became the inspiration for our work. The way I talk about it is wealth is created by owning assets that generate revenue and appreciate over time. And that if we really are going to close racial wealth gap, if we really are going to strengthen neighborhoods, we got to create a way to do more inclusive ownership of real estate assets and other assets that can close the racial wealth gap. So one of my proudest moments in the history of this business is we raised $330,000 from 130 Black local small investors on small change. We did work together, and it was the plan. And initially, Eve, the thing that also was fun about that project in that time is there was an article in the Wall Street Journal. Penny Pritzker, the former Commerce Secretary, was quoted in the Wall Street Journal. She sits on the board of the Harvard Land Company. And the quote was, Harvard had issued some RFP, and I believe Tishman Speyer won the RFP. As a part of the requirements of the RFP, they required that 5% of the equity in the project, big high profile, hundreds of $1 million project, 5% of the equity had to be available to Black and brown investors. And the quote in the Wall Street Journal was, Penny Pritzker says, one of the reasons there's a racial wealth gap in America is people of color don't get invited into good real estate deals. And the Wall Street Journal was highlighting that the investors were Jay-Z and LeBron James and Wall Street executives. And I remember thinking, I called her, I sent a note immediately and said, hey, we're doing the same thing, but our investors are millennials and grandmothers and charter school parents and the teachers. Mm-hmm. They're investing $1,000 or $2,000. So it's one thing to say, well, I want to have more people of color, and I'm not knocking. We welcome Jay-Z or LeBron to
Wouldn't that be great? Project.
Yeah. But what's equally important is that we have individuals that we can touch and feel. I'm branding this. I haven't created merchandise yet, but I have this idea to brand what I'm calling hashtag WOT. We own this. And the we doesn't even mean the 130 investors that invest with us. The we is, that's my uncle. That's my Aunt Eve.
Yeah.
That's my, I went to school. That's my fraternity brother. That pride of ownership, I saw it firsthand. We were doing a little league parade with my brother in Harlem. And my nephew had $1,000 in a local bank. And as we walked down the streets in Harlem, he said, I own that bank. Because he had $1,000 deposit.
Yeah.
own that bank. So imagine if kids said, I own that shopping center.
Yeah. Well, this is why small change exists, because I feel very much the same way as you do. I mean, it's great when people with a lot of money invest in disinvested neighborhoods. That's a great thing, but it's even better if the people in the neighborhood, get a chance to go along for the ride. And especially as home ownership is quickly becoming more and more out of the reach of many people, there has to be a way. I mean, real estate assets are solid. It's sort of a tried and true way to build wealth. Everyone knows that owning a home is the number one way to do it. So there has to be a way to let people in. I think it's really important. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
And then there are lots of statistics, right? The percentage of blacks who own commercial real estate is much lower than the percentage of whites, and the value of the real estate is also much lower.
Yeah, I have the good fortune of late last year becoming a non-resident senior fellow of the Brookings Institution.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And working with very esteemed, researchers, Andre Perry and Tracy Haddon Lowe.
Tracy, you're amazing.
They've done some incredible work. Andre's work around the devaluation of assets, his research and Tracy's research that only 3% of commercial property is owned by, Black people, as opposed to, 6 times that for people that are not Black. Just shows that there's opportunity there. And so, we're digging into that work. I'm looking forward to, doing some more research and exploration and coming up with some new knowledge and tools that'll help close the gap.
And then I'm going to look forward to interviewing you about it. So I've interviewed both Tracy and Andre. They're both amazing. Yes. So tell me the big plan. What's the big plan?
We have a project now. So we own 4 assets. We've raised a fund to allow us to buy 12 more shopping centers. And the goal is in each instance to make as little as 5% and as much as 49% of the equity available to entrepreneurs, right? To local entrepreneurs, community residents, socially minded, small investors. So whether it's Black investors just in the neighborhood, or it's people who believe that their $1,000 or $5,000 investment, even if they live across the country or across the world, that they want to return, but they also want to see that their dollars mean something in the neighborhood. So this is not just for residents, right? But I do a lot of work, Zoom calls, community meetings, setting up, little coffees in the library to talk to community. But I always tell people we need everyone. Our last raise, our small change raise, 50% of the investors, thereabout, 53% were Black people, but that means 47% were not, right? That we had 33% of our investors were right from the state of Maryland or in the zip code where the shopping center was. But that means the other 2/3 were not. So we need impact investors who want to see this strategy of making neighborhoods better, getting amenities and services and, investment, reducing crime, and attractive places. That's what our small, offerings is aiming to do. So we want to own 16 shopping centers. We think that's going to be about $100 million of investment. We want to have 1,000 small impact investors in our projects. And we want to do that in the next 3 years or so.
Wow. So you own 4, and where are they all located?
We own 3 in Chicago. We own the one in Baltimore. We're about to buy our 2nd in Baltimore, our 4th asset in Chicago, and we're just we have a property under contract in Columbus, Ohio. So same way, in a vibrant retail corridor. We've been, cultivating really good community leaders, local entrepreneurs, residents who want to see better retail and want to have an ownership interest in better retail. So our strategy of asking people to co-own with us, right, is something that, again, I get a lot of energy from.
So full disclosure, you have a project that's listing on Small Change right now, and this is part of your strategy. It's a big project. Where is that one? Tell us about it.
So this is in West Baltimore, 3 miles away from where we bought our first project. So anyone that expressed an interest in our first project, we hope they'll take a look at this one. This is a $41 million acquisition and redevelopment. So it's a big deal. However, this shopping center, Eve, when it was built in the 1940s, it was built with such great ambition. It had a movie theater and a pet shop and a department store across the street, a lunch counter that people loved. It had holiday lights. Well, over the years, it's experienced disinvestment. Now its recent history is 2 fires. There was a tragic shooting in the parking lot.
Oh.
Even though there is strong home ownership around it, a whole lot of traffic passes the shopping center, it needs redevelopment. So our whole strategy is, we call it, reimagine, revitalize, redevelop, reposition the shopping center, attracting a grocery store and sit-down restaurants and other services and amenities. Most of our projects, Eve, I call them service-oriented shopping centers. So this is not Best Buy and West Elm and the Cheesecake Factory. Right? This is the drugstore, the carry-out pizza, health services, grocery, a place to have a sit down, for us to meet right now in West Baltimore for coffee, we'd actually have to leave the city, right? There's no place,
wow.
a TGI Fridays, an Applebee's, and you pick whatever, nothing glamorous. It's just a place that would serve and be a place where you can go and have a birthday party, right? Just
and I love the way that you talk about these are not businesses that Amazon will compete with. They're really service businesses in the neighborhood, which is just a really interesting way to think about it.
Amazon doesn't do fingernails yet, although I did see a machine somewhere where there was like a robot doing manicures, but it really is services.
Interesting. So what are some of the challenges you've been confronted with in terms of financing or even perception or the tenant pool?
Yeah, so we've had, once a shopping center loses its franchise as a property, right? The retailers say, I've been there, I've seen it decline, right? So the first thing is painting a very big new vision and convincing people that you have the resources to bring that new vision to fruition. So even as we got this property under contract, the first thing we did was we went to the municipality and we got an $8 million. This is not a promise. It's now past the city council approval process, an $8 million commitment for capital improvements. We're having those same level of discussions with the state of Maryland and hope to have those approvals lined up. So imagine having, $15-16 million of public money that's focused on making a first-class renovation here, A. Mm-hmm. B, one of the challenges to the redevelopment here was back in the 40s when the shopping center was developed, there was the set of quote-unquote restrictive covenants that there were 120 parcel owners around the shopping center. And it really precluded, you can't do new signage. You can imagine back in the 40s. You can't do out parcels, as we think about where a restaurant might sit or where a bank branch might sit and so we've had to go through this process of hosting community meetings and introducing ourselves and our plan and, almost on a one-by-one basis, getting 59 people to parcel owners.
It's like a political campaign.
Right. And again, but part of the reason that the shopping center is in this condition is nobody has had the energy and the strategy and the urgency, but patience to work with the local parcel owners to get this approval process done. So if you would have seen me out there one hot August day, Eve, I was sitting in front of the shopping center with a card table. And I wish I would have brought a picture of lemonade. It would look like Lyneir's lemonade stand, but I was saying, I have a contract to purchase a shopping center. Here's our plan. And, one by one, getting the support that we need to move forward.
Wow. And you have that support now?
We're almost done with it. We still have some process.
Congratulations.
Part of my thought of, we've lined up our first mortgage financing. We have our equity. We made this offering on small change to create opportunity for local investors. And it's funny because it's not as if we absolutely need the money. We really believe that if local people and small investors have a sense of ownership, they'll patronize, protect, respect, support the project in a way like owners. And that's what we really like. So I'd like to have, we need a few, I'd like to have many, right? Because you want other people to care and protect and respect and patronize the shopping center. And so over the next 2 months, we'll continue to work to get our covenant amendments in place. We got to get our permits to build the building. We got to work with it. So this is a multi-year, multi-phase project, but we really do believe it's going to be financially rewarding and rewarding to see this project come to life as a revitalization for this part of Baltimore.
And are the current tenants excited?
They are. So, there's an opportunity to bring new tenants as well. So there are tenants that have been there and have, weathered. But, there's an opportunity here to bring, as I said, from financial services to restaurants to health services to new grocery stores, all of which we're in active discussions with right now.
So one thing you didn't mention, Walbrook Junction, where you did raise funds on small change, what percentage ownership did those investors get?
So they're 49%.
Isn't that amazing?
So what's interesting is our model is we can make as little as 5% and as much as 49%. So we raised our capital from big philanthropy to be able to buy these assets. And if we just get 5% of local investment, we'll put the rest of the money in. But really, in some respects, that's almost what we want because we'd like to keep 95% of the equity. But our deal, both with the city and getting public financing and with philanthropy, is we're going to make this equity available. So last time around, there was a positive news article. And within a few weeks after that, we had achieved our goal of, our maximum goal of raising 49%, raising enough equity so that local small dollar impact investors, residents, own 49% of the property.
Yeah, I remember one of our investors actually reaching out to you. He's a white man and he's been a very loyal investor on small change, invested in many things, and he asked your permission if he could invest, which I thought was really charming.
Yeah, that came out a couple times. People are like, I'm a white guy, can I invest? Yeah, again, intentionally inclusive doesn't mean exclusive. In this instance, we have over 1,000 shares, a lot of opportunity. I should say that. All the details on the Small Change website. I'll be compliant, Eve. But but again, we want to have a diverse set of investors who want to earn a return, but also want to see that their dollars are impactful. So we need not just the local investors.
This is in a place that's never really had that opportunity before.
Right. But let me just add, we have experience, resources, industry relationships, track record, all of that. So we believe people will earn a financial return, right? So they're investing not just in a hope and a dream, and not just in a mission of revitalizing neighborhoods, but they're investing in a team that has expertise to deliver the project.
So I have to ask, how did you get from your initial career choice of law to this?
I started my career as a bank lawyer, and every day the bank would have us working on loan documents for $100 million or $200 million loan to some big publicly traded company. And every day about 2:00 in the afternoon, I'd fall asleep at my desk, right? The work was so boring. It wasn't until there was a pro bono assignment where the bank was going to make $100,000 loan or thereabouts to a barber who was buying his building on a commercial corridor, maybe 2 miles from where I grew up, west side of Chicago. The work came to life. It had meaning. It was the same promissory note and mortgage, but it was something about connecting this entrepreneur to this big bank. connecting resources to financing. And I can now articulate it this way. I couldn't do it when I was 27 as a bank lawyer. Getting resources to people and places that other people overlook or undervalue, that's my passion. Right? Making the case, connecting the dots. There's narrative. You got to do some writing. The numbers have to make sense. That work is what energizes me.
So I have one last question for you, and that is, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, so it's what keeps me up at night is a great question. So, you want to be right? And these projects, it's going to take 5 or 7 or 10 years before you really would know you were right. But more than anything, I want people to be able to say at some point is, you know what? He had a plan and he was right. So, I stay up at night going, am I missing a detail? Do I have the right people on the team? Should I be doing something a little different way? How can I connect the dots? Right. So part of my challenge is I'm solving problems at night while you're trying to sleep. Being like, all right, go to sleep. You can, so
I'm
that
exactly the
keeps
same.
you up. Yeah, it wakes you up more than keeps you up.
Yes.
Or wakes you up at night, like, oh. So
Yes.
I can fall asleep pretty quickly, but I wake up early, quite often.
Okay, well, I hope, I expect it's going to work out very well. I certainly hope it does, and hope you get lots of sleep between now and then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me today.
I hope you enjoyed today's guest and our deep dive. You can find out more about this episode or others you might have missed on the show notes page at rethinkrealestateforgood.co. There's lots to listen to there. You can support this podcast by sharing it with others, posting about it on social media, or leaving a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Even better, if you're ready to dabble in some impact investing yourself, head on over to wefunder.com/small change, where you can invest directly in small change and our mission to democratize capital formation to create impact in commercial real estate development. A special thanks to David Allardyce for his excellent editing of this podcast and original music. And a big thanks to you for spending your time with me today. We'll talk again soon, but for now, this is Eve Picker signing off to go make some change.